Welcome to this Printess tutorial. My name is Axel and today I will show you how to create the layout for a dynamic book cover. Because if you are offering the same book in different sizes and orientations, you expect the frames to scale in the right way and to keep the right place. And if the buyer is adding pages, the spine has to grow, which is another challenge. This is why you have to set up the layout for a dynamic cover in a special way. And for this video tutorial, I took an existing example, which you will find in our example layout library, this one here, to build it from scratch. So first of all, we have to set up our Printess template in the right way. And I will rename that document here to cover. But a cover is always related to the inner page part of a book. And this is why we have to add another document here. I will call it inner pages. And if we now go to the buyer side setting here of that inner pages document, we can activate the option book inside pages. You have to allow the buyer to add spreads. Otherwise, the whole function is not supported, because if the buyer can't add any spreads, you don't need a dynamic spine, right? And you can define minimum and maximum number of spreads. And only because we have set up that document in this way to be a book with inside pages, we can now go back to the cover, and this is what we would like to talk about, to a real cover with spine. So if you do not set up another document with a book feature activated, you will not find this option here in the cover document. As soon as I hit that icon here, the cover and spine icon, Printess automatically calculates the entire size of that document, of our dynamic cover, including a spine and hinges. So again, we only need that inner pages document to be able to set up such a cover here. And this is why we call them in our layout libraries always inside fake, because there's not really a use. They will not be published like all the other documents here to become layout snippets. It's just to be able to set up a cover. So let's try to build that one here from scratch. So first of all, I would like to add the dynamic document size feature to my document, because then it's far much easier for testing later on. So I have added that form field here, document size, and we will now add two more formats here, a A4 landscape and a square 20 by 20. And here in the value field, you are not allowed to use any units, because this field will automatically take the units from the template. So currently the template is set to centimeters, and this is why I only need the numbers here, no units allowed. I will define the labels as well, so that we've got a A4 portrait, A4 landscape, and a 20 by 20 square, because our recommendation is to do the initial setup on a square format. Okay, so let's go back to our cover page, and if I now change to square, the cover will be resized as well, because as I said at the beginning, the cover is related to the inner pages document. So let's start with the layout. First of all, we need a blue background. So I drop that frame. I would change it to the blue used in the other example. This is it. And the rest is very easy in this case. Backgrounds are the easiest thing. I just have to turn on dock to bleed, so it will automatically scale, always, doesn't matter which format, to the edges of the current document, or even into the bleed if there is a bleed defined. So let's deselect the frame here to have the bleed settings available. I will make it 0.5, then it's easier for you to see that there is now a bleed added. The next step now is how to add a book title here. So we need a text frame. Of course, we will set it to content, that the buyer can change the content. And you would now normally may name it book title, for example. And we would start to rotate it, by 90 degrees. Something like that, and then we would try to put it in here and scale it to the current size of the spine. Looks great, but it won't work. If I now change the format, you see the frame moving, so this is not what we need. So let's remove that frame to start from scratch. What did we wrong? First of all, never ever rotate the text frame. You have to rotate the content later on, but not the frame itself, because then all these settings I will explain now won't be supported. It won't work. Okay, number one. Let's find the right position for the left edge of the text frame. We would like to place the top left corner of that frame at the left edge here of the spine. In the first step, always set all these values to percentage. And now we go to the left options to find the feature cover. And here we can choose the left edge of the spine. Okay. And the text frame should always have the width of the spine. So we go to cover again, to select spine width. Now the text is very, very small. We will dock it to the bottom, because then we've got that feature here available. Rotate the content. The top position should be 0 and the bottom position as well. That's it. To make sure that that frame will never ever reach one of the 4 edges of the spine, we will define a padding left with 5%, right 5%, top 10, and bottom may 15, something like that, to have it centered. And this is really it for the first text frame we have placed. And if we now change the format, that frame stays in the right position. And before we go on with the setup, we should set it to square again, because that was my recommendation to you. In the next step, we will add these waves to the background. I already copied them here from the original layout. So I only have to set them back here to become visible again. And as you see, we've got 3 layers here, the lines, the sand, and the white background. And because of the fact that we would like to stretch them to cover the entire page, I cannot group them. I have to do it separately. So the left edge of that frame should go into the left bleed. And for the positioning, we don't have to use these cover helpers for front and back side and spine, because as I said, it will cover the entire page. So it's far much easier to positioning it. I will just set it, I will just dock it to the bottom and to the right and to the left, of course. To change again the values to percentage, left should be -2, bottom should be -3, and right should be -2 as well. That's really it. So we have to do the same for this guy. Right docking, change to percentage, -2, -3, -2. I will reduce the height of that one here, because I wanted to have that white edge here. And now let's take the last one here, these waves. Docking point, value set to percentage, -2 for the left, -2 for the right, -3 for the bottom. But if you have objects other than these waves, which should scale always proportionally, you can group them, but you have to do it in a special way. Let me show you the example of the small nice crab. So this one here we have to copy also over, but in this case here my colleague is using a so-called subdocument. You can see it here, it's called crab, and this is the document itself. And again, we have 3 layers here. I guess the one on top, yeah, that's the eyes. Then we've got these lines and the main shape, and all 3 of them are a subdocument. I will first of all copy them all over with copy and paste to my document here. And if I would like to use a subdocument, I would add now another document to paste them in here. Here we go. Then you would normally fit the document size to the object size. And now I can take that document to drop it here. The advantages, as I said earlier, it's always scales proportionally. You can't do wrong to do it that way, but this is not necessary in this case. There is an easier way, so let me remove the subdocument first, because I can also copy these 3 frames directly on my page. And now here you can see all 3 of them are selected. I do now a right mouse click to group them as a subdocument. So it's got the same effect. They are scaling all together, just that it's easier for me to set up the layout here. to not have a separate document and things. This is why this should be the way to do it. I do the positioning and then I just change all these values from static to percentage, and that's really it. Okay, let's take the next item, which is the leaf. Copy and paste it. And in this case, I would like to position it a few percent from the hinge. So I would dock it left top. It is already set to percentage. And now I use the option cover front page left. But this is too close for production, and this is why I can add here now plus 1%, for example. Yeah, you just can type it in. This was already available here, that setting, but normally you just type in plus 1% or 2 or whatever. And this ensures that this element will always stay on the front page. Doesn't matter how the entire document will scale, and it will never ever touch here that area of the hinge or even the spine. And that's the difference to the crep. This has not defined any distance to any of these edges, so it will move around, but I know that my book cover will never ever become that small that this crep will reach here the spine. Another interesting detail is this setting here for the width and the height of that frame. It's set to min percentage, which means that the scaling for that frame is always based on the smaller value, width or height, depending on the format of the document. Because, as I said earlier, the percentage is related to the page size, not to the object size or frame size. Okay, what else do we need? I guess we have these two blue dots here, and we've got an image frame and a headline. Okay, so let's build such a dot first. And now let's have a look for the positioning options here. This is all set to centimeters, and I will leave it as it is for a second to copy that one and do a second one, because there was also a bigger one on the other design. Same thing, we keep the centimeter settings here, and let's see what now will happen. Because sometimes it can make sense, sometimes you would like to have exactly that behavior. If I'm now changing to landscape, they are changing their position. And if I go back to portrait, they are moving back to the cover page. So if it's just some background elements, you may like to have that effect that these dots or these elements are moving, but maybe sometimes not. And if you would like to keep them on the cover page, we have to change the positioning again. In this case, I would set it to percentage first to use the helper cover front page left. Same story like I did with the leaf, plus let's say 3%. Let's see where that goes. Yeah, looks okay. And this one here needs maybe then cover left or front page left to be accurate here. And yeah, a bit more, let's say 8% may. So now they are still moving, but they are staying on the front page. The only other issue we've now got is that they are not a circle anymore, because I explained it with a leaf as an example, but I didn't do it here for these circles. We now have to use min percentage for both values. Same here for the other circle to try it again. Now we've got the result we expected. They stay always on the cover page and they keep their shape. Okay, now we need a headline to make it white, Miami, and I guess now you already know what I will do. I place at front page left, dock it to the right, to set it to percentage, to define 0% for the right. That's really it. And again, like with the other text frame, we need some paddings here. 3% left, 3% right. Okay, so this is for the text frame. And last not least, we need some image frames in addition. So I will mark that one with a rounded shape. So I add this feature to that frame. That frame got now two features. It's an image frame and it's got a shape. And for the shape, I will define no fill color, but therefore a stroke, which I will make light blue. Let's scale it down. And again, the positioning should be done here. Put it to percentage or set it to percentage. To use the helper, cover front page center. And because it's not in the center, because I have to change the focal point of that frame. And we need to move it a bit up. So let's try 40% from the top. Okay. And we have to make sure here as well that it keeps its shape. So I will define that one by 26% and that one of 26.2%. So it's related to the other value. If we now change to portrait, landscape, and back to square, the circle keeps the shape. And I can now copy that one to move it to the back page center. Here we go. Move it 30% from the top. That's really it. So our first dynamic layout is done. I hope that video gives you a good idea how all these details are working together, how you can combine them, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.